The holiday weekend. Here's Rob Dibble.
We're still excited we're playing. What kind of question is that?
A-seed, schmate-seed.
Dude,
doesn't matter.
We're the Eastern Conference champs. At that point, stop with the seedings. There's 2 teams left, right?
Right. The Eastern Conference champs. Put it on
the Eastern Conference champs. It's right there. It's right on my hat, lady.
I don't know if I love or hate the Joe Mazzulla interviews. There's a part of me that thinks like, man, this guy, he doesn't know how to do it. And then there's a part of me like, I think this guy's inventing a new way to do it. It's kind of like a cross between Popovich and like an actual answer. Like he gives you an answer, but it's the only, like, 2 plus 2. So many coaches will go off and how it equals 4. Joe Mazzulla's 4. And just stare at you.
But I'm a big Joe Mazzulla fan. What he says after these games, even when they were down 3-0,
love it.
Even when they lost last night, he's like, "Listen, I just
the right message.
I met 3 terminally ill women that are dying of cancer." He goes, "That puts my life in perspective. This is nothing. This will blow over." I mean, so I love the dude. He is very well spoken. I think he's smarter than the interviews in game.
In-game interviews are dumb.
They are, and they should be done away with. The NHL, they're awful.
I've never heard anything of use in an in-game.
Well, last night
NFL, the football ones, the college football ones, the dude's running off. He's down 3 touchdowns, going to the locker room. Hey, what are you going to do in the second half, coach?
We're going to try to suck.
Exactly. We're going to suck a little less in the next 30 minutes. I mean, and I feel bad for the people that have to ask those questions because we know what their role is, and they know what their role is to do that, but it's useless. It's futile.
It's the most awkward thing in all of sports, and I don't know why we keep going through it. There's so many things that are awkward about it. My favorite part is when Joe Mazzulla or anyone gives you nothing, and like I forget
You'll
what
get nothing and like it.
Her name,
Spalding?
I think, is Nikki or something like that, and then either Kevin Harlan or somebody, when they take it back, have to go, "Great stuff, Nikki." Even though we all know that was a pile of crap, Nikki. That had nothing to do with anything. So like, oh, you didn't know that Jason Tatum had to play through it? Because Joe Mazzulla told you about his ankle injury going into the fourth quarter when he was asked, what should Jason Tatum do with his ankle? Play through it. Oh, man, why did I think of that?
He should come over here because I'm going to kick him in the other one and go, "Hey, does that hurt worse or better?"
Now, there were so many moments, people are complaining, Mazzulla's got to draw something up.
No, he doesn't. You can't draw up how to make threes.
Guys, instead of missing, let's start making. Ready? Break.
And if you don't, go get it.
Yeah. And I thought he was trying his butt off to motivate these guys in the heat of it. I thought he was trying his butt off to turn the page on some adversity moments. But it really did feel like Horford, Derek White, and Malcolm Brogdon would be the only people listening to this message. Grant Williams, maybe. Robert Williams, maybe. But the superstars, it just felt like a total tune-out. And I don't know if it had anything to do with Ime Udoka and the firing there that we heard from our friend Gary Washburn could be an issue. I don't know if it's because this guy is a first-year head coach and these are superstars, therefore you got to prove yourself before you can actually get listened to at timeouts. I don't know what it is. All I know, it was not a cohesive coach-player unit going into these games.
It wasn't just Udoka, though. Gary Washburn, who was on the show, told us it was all the assistant coaches as well. And sometimes that's worse than the firing of the head coach. When the other guys are let go, it's I think a lot of these guys probably felt betrayed because those are your best friends. Those are the guys, your confidants that you can say stuff to, knowing it's probably going to trickle back to the head coach. Maybe we should try this in practice. Maybe we should do that. This is what, I'm used to, things like that. And that's why they're the buffers. When you lost your buffers, I think you lost. I don't think this is a reflection on Joe Mazzulla as much as it is the entire coaching staff changed. And so, and you shouldn't have got rid of Al Horford a few years ago. I think this is a different team. But, yeah, he left and he came back because you needed him. You needed another veteran voice in that line. These guys are still young. Between Jaylen Brown and Derek White and Jason Tatum, they're still very young, and so you need so now you got a 34-year-old head coach. I don't put this on Mazzulla as much as I put this on Brad Stevens and the people that probably should have thought this through a little bit more. That we don't need Joe Mazzulla to get us to the postseason. We need somebody to outcoach these coaches in the postseason. So when you're saying, well, write something up, write something up. What? When you're down 20 with 2 minutes to go, you can't write up a 21-point shot. It doesn't exist. So I'm with you on this. It's a lot of this has to do with Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. This was supposed to be a team, and it's still not a team.
Right.
This is not the Milwaukee Bucks. This is not the Nuggets. This is not the Heat. And this team failed itself. They beat themselves here in this last game. 42 threes. 42 threes. That's the game plan you went with. And I'm sure Joe Mazzulla at practice was like, all right, guys, how are we going to approach Game 7? He didn't write that up. I don't think he had anything to do with that. He just has to sit there with that big thing in his back pocket and look the part. But no, these guys should have executed a lot better. They didn't, and the Heat did. I give the Heat all the credit.
I'm wondering how the dominoes are going to fall. I'm not saying this is the move. This is not my opinion. I'm just kind of reading the tea leaves here, and you kind of struck a chord when you said Horford left and then came back, because I do believe he left to Philadelphia, then came back to Boston. Philadelphia just got rid of their head coach, who used to be a coach at Boston. Matter of fact, last time they won an NBA Finals. You think Doc is getting reached out to come back and coach this bunch and replace Joe Mazzulla?
I think you tap into everything you know, and that is one of the things you know. And that's the job of the general manager and the owner, is to explore every option. I think, if you're going to keep them together and you're going to pay these guys almost $30 million each, for the next 5-6 years, maybe adding a piece here and there, you have to have someone that can coach them in the postseason. That's not their problem, getting to the postseason. Their problem is winning the championship. So my thought process in doing this job 25 years, a lot of general managers want guys that have won championship in the locker room.
Yeah.
They have rings, they call it. And so if the more guys that you gather up that have won rings, I don't think there's a lot of them in that locker room, including the head coach. So when you don't have anybody that's got experience in winning championships, that's why the 76ers went and got a guy. That's why the Bucks, got rid of a guy that won one. Well, he's going to find another job. You know why? He's won a ring. So it brings in respect, and I think that it's not that Joe Mazzulla doesn't have the respect. You bring in another guy or bring back Doc Rivers. I don't like to do that. I don't like to go to the well twice. We did that with what's his face here with UConn football.
Randy Edsel, yeah.
It was a miserable failure, But that's your first thought process. Reach out to what you know, who I know. I would go in a different direction personally. That's my opinion, but I would still go after someone that's won championships or a championship that can coach me through the postseason to get me a championship.
I think that's Mazzulla's biggest fault, and it's not his fault. It's the way
not a personality thing.
Because he is so young, and these guys are so young. He may be in the same vein as Eric Spoelstra, but the luck of Eric Spoelstra is he had a player that was a part of that franchise since draft, and he won a championship in Dwayne Wade, and the greatest player in the league at the time, LeBron James. That really helps. And both those guys.
But he also had to manage them.
But they're older.
Right.
And they're more mature.
He did a great job of managing three egos at the top in Bosh, Wade, and LeBron. And then he was able to get them to win the championship.
And once he did, everyone else, though, too, including people who are, have real high standards like Jimmy Butler, comes in and gives him that kind of respect. I just don't think Mazzulla had the respect or has the respect from those youngsters, those young superstars, those ones that are making a lot more money than Joe Mazzulla in that locker room this year. Maybe it will change next year, but I'm with you, man. I don't think it changes for anybody until he wins the title, until he proves it.
Can the Heat beat the Nuggets?
I think they're going to have to shoot the lights out. I think they're going to have to be on fire. I think Bam Adebayo's really got to play some.
He's got to play better than he played against the Celtics.
Yeah, I think that's I would go one-on-one in this matchup. Jokic versus Bam Adebayo. If I'm Denver, I'm looking at the defensive game plan of Boston, and I'm kind of imitating that. I don't think Boston's problem was defense. I think Boston's problem was offense.
Especially yesterday.
And I don't think that's Denver's problem at all, is offense. But, man, if Caleb Martin and Duncan Robinson and Gabe Vincent, and then you get some shooting from Jimmy Butler on the outside too, like that 3-point barrage is for real. And they can beat anybody in this league if they're hitting at the clip of 50% like they were last night. I definitely see why the Nuggets are, minus 300 as a favorite, or even more so in Vegas. That's a huge favorite for the NBA Finals. But people counted them out against the Bucks. People were iffy about them against the Knicks. Not many gave them a chance before Game 1 against these Celtics. It's hard for me to keep counting these guys out and for them to win games to not give them any kind of chance against the Denver Nuggets.
I think it's about turnovers, like you said. Jaylen Brown's 8 turnovers hurt them. I'll take Jamal Murray as a great number 2. He's averaged nearly 30 points a game in the postseason with Jokic, who's averaging 30 points a game. It's Michael Porter, Aaron Gordon, Bruce Brown, Caldwell Pope, all averaging over double figures in the postseason. You need that kind of – everybody's got to have career years, not in the regular season. If you look at the New York Yankees when they won all their championships, go back and look at Luis Sojo, Brocious. Some of those guys hit 220 in the regular season, but they'd hit 350 in the postseason. Jim Leyritz. Give me one season where Jim Leyritz was amazing in the regular season. He wasn't even the starting catcher. But when it came to the postseason, they stepped up their game. They knew how to do it. So I just see that with the Nuggets. That's what the Heat has to do. They have to have 5 guys, 2 guys probably over 20 points a game, which Caleb Martin's got to continue to produce. And then you need 3 or 4 guys that are getting double figures. But if you get what happened with the Celtics yesterday, where you get 3 guys in double figures and the rest of the guys are like, not getting it done,
right?
And then turning the ball over. I mean, God. Again, like you said, nobody can shoot 9 for 42 and win in the postseason.
Vince Carter said this, and it really hit me. And this was after Game 1. Vince Carter was on the morning show here on ESPN 97.9. He was talking to the guys about confidence that a superstar can give you. That when Michael Jordan tells John Paxson or Steve Kerr, "I'm going to pass it to you, and you're going to make this 3."
Right.
There's no other confidence booster that you can get, especially on an NBA team, from the superstar telling you, "Be ready, I'm going to you."
But that's Jokic's game.
Yeah, that's true.
Jokic is like, I got 2 or 3 dudes on me, and then I'm just going to – and he's a really good – I mean, he's a triple-double guy the entire postseason.
But all of them respond. That's why I like both these teams.
Yeah, they
all of them step up.
They're confident when he gives them the ball that they're going to make it.
I've always just been head-scratched about how a lot of the guys that come to the NBA were 95% free throw shooters in college. And then for some reason in the NBA, they're 75% free throw shooters. It's the same distance, it's the same height, it's the same shot. The only thing that's changed is your teammates and the atmosphere.
Right.
And for that to affect you, that has been a 95% free throw, that's just bonkers to me. And I don't see it with the Duncan Robinson. I don't see it with the Gabe Vincent.
Yep.
I don't see it with any of those guys on Denver. By the way, Michael Porter Jr. barely misses. Like, it's a shock when that dude misses. But the confidence level of all these guys, 1 through 12, 1 through 15 on both of these teams, is the way I've always thought NBA was.
I think it goes 6 or 7. I definitely think this is one of those series. I don't know what happened to the Heat in a couple of those games, but – I don't think the Celtics were that much better other than maybe they were exhausted. I think the Heat were exhausted, and I think the Heat got enough back to what – dude, you got almost 2 weeks off for the Nuggets. I think they're going to be rusty. I think that these guys' legs are not going to be as strong as maybe in game 2 or 3, but It's going to take a while for that to kick back. I like the Heat stealing a game when they go to Denver.
That'd be huge. Game 1 is on Thursday, which will officially be at 9 straight days of not playing for the Denver Nuggets after sweeping the Los Angeles Lakers. Both teams are on a mission, though. That's why I really like these finals as well. I think both teams have so many guys that are hungry for that first one.
Yeah.
And
that's why it's going to be a great battle.
Really, the only guy I'd put credit to as far as having experience is Eric Spoelstra. Eric Spoelstra has the most experience of anybody on these rosters going into these NBA finals. And, man, I've loved that guy. As much as we've said about Mazzulla and the things he says in post games, I've loved Eric Spoelstra's post games. I loved his after Game 6 post game press conference where he said it hasn't been easy for us, and we like it that way. And I think this guy not only exudes the confidence in his players, gets them in the right mindset, but he's phenomenal with the X's and O's. He knows exactly what he's doing.
Nick Nurse to the 76ers was an assistant for 5 years. He was a head coach for 5 years, won a championship with the Toronto Raptors in 2019.
I don't know. I don't think that Philadelphia 76ers should be going bonkers with this hire. Like, wow, we got the guy now. That championship was won because Kawhi showed up.
Yeah.
Like,
You're damn right about
I think
that.
he's a great guy. Let him date my daughter. But I have no idea if this guy is a really good head coach or just a guy in a suit that can go to the press conferences. Good luck. We'll see what happens with James Harden because he has opted out, and the 76ers either got to re-up him or do something else there. You do have a good one in Joel Embiid that you can build around, and I think that would be great for any coach. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with the Philadelphia 76ers. They may be starting over and just rebuilding around Joel Embiid. I don't know if he's a good coach or not. I don't know if any of these guys are that, have only been in the league for a handful of times and have won that one championship with a great player.
Had Kyle Lowry as well, scoring 20.
I love watching him, by the way.
No,
he's
he's on
37
the-
years old, FYI.
Guess how much he's making? 28.
What?
Gosh, nice to be Kyle Lowry.
Dude, what are they complaining? Like every single one of them is making over $10 million. Every single one of them is making big
Good to
time
be an NBA
receiver
player, man.
money in the NFL.
Dude, good to be an NBA player.
Good to be an NBA player.
All right. You're lucky if you get to come across this next guest. She is one of our favorites. It is now time for the Bone and Joint Institute virtual takeover of the Rob Dibble Show. We get some great guests. Dr. Waskowitz will join us the top of next hour. But Steph Barassa, who is the head of physical therapy over there at the Bone and Joint Institute, she will join us next. And we will talk to her about Jason Tatum's injury and other injuries and how to hydrate your kids now that the warmer weather is coming up. Steph Barassa from the Bone and Joint Institute next.